The finest wheeled vehicles were styled for elegance and were made by hand for the fortunate few. But then came an innovation that was a turning point in history. No one cared that the automobile looked like the familiar buggy minus the horse. People were more concerned with whether it was safe and how well it would work. Automobiles continued to look like carriages, and much the same lines were used year after year. Then motor cars became a means of mass transportation with steel bodies that could be reproduced in the millions.
New horizons, roads for men to go places. The accelerating rate of men's progress in all fields of endeavor has paralleled closely our progress in the freedom of movement from place to place. New things to do and new ways to do them. Telephone, electric lights, automobiles, aircraft, all are symbols of better living. New places to go and new means of getting there. With a growing appreciation of the wisdom of applying the road tax monies to the road building program for which they were designed, highway development is going on at a rapidly increasing pace. Widening the trails while our men of science are broadening all our mental avenues with new activities. Activities based on modern pioneering into new fields of research. Men exploring and pioneering for all to follow. Men endlessly seeking something new along the roads of civilization in the great unknown expanses of applied science and scientific research. All the new highways of research and exploration have brought to us more raw materials. Come, let's travel into the future. What will we see? And now we have arrived in this wonder world of 1960. The World's Fair exhibit, modeled with such artistry and skill that we must continually remind ourselves the world we are now seeing is a vision, an artistic conception which may undergo many changes as it develops into the great realities of tomorrow. Here is a modern farm. The farmer of 1960 works in greater security, for science and research have helped him to control many of the risks of agriculture. Hours of work have been shortened, with almost universal electrification of rural areas. Here are the farm roads of the community. They have been improved and made to flow into great motorways. This superb one-direction highway, with its 7 lanes accommodating traffic at designated speeds of 50, 75, and 100 miles an hour, is engineered for easy grades and for speed with safety. Here is a highway intersection. Highway engineering at its most spectacular. Traffic may move safely and easily without loss of speed. By means of the ramped loops, cars may make right and left turns at rates of speed up to 50 miles per hour. Elevated and depressed are the turning off lanes. There is no interference from the straight-ahead traffic in the higher speed lanes. The motorist of 1960 finds this intersection safe and efficient. Modern and efficient city planning breathtaking architecture, each city block a complete unit in itself. And so, we see some suggestion of the things to come. True, each of us may have different ideas as to what that future will be. But every forward outlook reminds us that all the highways of all research and all communication, all the activities of science, lead us onward to better methods of doing things. In the great American way.
Wouldn't it be great if there was a button on your dashboard that you could push and the car would get you home safely? Now, that's been the promise of the self-driving car, the autonomous vehicle. And it's been a dream since at least 1939, when General Motors showcased this idea at their Futurama booth at the World's Fair.
Speed, safety, and comfort will be the keynotes of tomorrow's highways. If visibility is poor, our windshield becomes a radar screen, showing the outline of objects ahead. Dashboard panels featuring built-in safety controls and electronic operating devices are predictions for tomorrow. A teletype panel shows up-to-the-minute traffic bulletins. The recommended safe driving speed is automatically indicated. Our rear-view mirror is actually a television picture.
In one sweep, a giant road builder changes rough ground into a wide finished highway. Prefabricated bridges and overpasses move immediately into place.
Combining new formulas of concrete with quick-setting ceramic materials, a mobile kill is supported by the bridge it builds. The shape of our cities will change as expanded highway transportation decentralizes our population centers into vast urban areas. With the advent of wider, faster expressways, the commuter's radius will be extended many miles. America will someday be crisscrossed by a network of super-speed transcontinental motorways. As father chooses the route in advance on a push-button selector, electronics take over complete control. Progress can be accurately checked on a synchronized scanning map. With no driving responsibility, the family relaxes together. En route, business conferences are conducted by television. On entering the city, the family separates. Father to his office, mother and son to the shopping center. Keeping pace with America's economy, heavy-duty freightways will combine railroad volume with highway flexibility. Central Traffic Control radios a truck train, instructing the crew to pick up a farm produce unit. Here they open up to become food dispensers. Another carrier sweeps directly to a seaport destination, where it becomes a neatly stacked unit in the ship's hold. To meet faster delivery schedules, these highways of commerce lead to launching ports, where the mobile freighter becomes the payload of a cargo rocket.
Highway and automotive design will move forward together. First, we'll have the more efficient gas turbine car, then the speedier jet, the inexhaustible atom, and possibly the sun-powered electro-suspension car, which needs no wheels. These giant arteries will link together all nations and help create a better understanding among the peoples of the world. As in the past, the highway will continue to play a vital role in the progress of civilization. It will be our magic carpet to new hopes, new dreams, and a better way of life.
for the future.
He explores the dynamics of motion, both mechanical and human. Or as he learned when he was a student, if you can draw the subtlety of the human figure, you can draw anything. While some are working on ideas for the distant future, others are concerned with features that may be used in the next few years. Safety and comfort, along with beauty, are of basic importance. Other advances include brake and accelerator pedals which adjust to fit the driver. Here is a new concept in driver convenience, a unique cantilevered arm steering wheel with a memory unit. By pushing buttons, the driver can raise or lower the steering wheel and move it fore or aft to his most comfortable driving position. When he leaves, he swings the steering wheel out of the way for easy exit. On re-entering the car, he merely touches the memory button to move the steering wheel back to the original driving position. Instrumentation is complete and clearly legible. Controls are located for optimum convenience. This is the moment of truth.
So how many of you have ever gotten behind the wheel of a car when you really shouldn't have been driving? Maybe you're out on the road for a long day and you just wanted to get home. You were tired, but you felt you could drive a few more miles. Maybe you thought, I've had less to drink than everybody else. I should be the one to go home. Or maybe your mind was just entirely elsewhere. Does this sound familiar to you? Now, in those situations, wouldn't it be great if there was a button on your dashboard that you could push and the car would get you home safely? Now, that's been the promise of the self-driving car, the autonomous vehicle. And it's been a dream since at least 1939, when General Motors showcased this idea at their Futurama booth at the World's Fair. Now, it's been one of those dreams that's always seemed about 20 years in the future. Now, 2 weeks ago, that dream took a step forward when the state of Nevada granted Google's self-driving car the very first license for an autonomous vehicle, clearly establishing that it's legal for them to test it on the roads in Nevada. Now, California is considering similar legislation, and this would make sure that the autonomous car is not one of those things that has to stay in Vegas. Now, in my lab at Stanford, we've been working on autonomous cars too, but with a slightly different spin on things. You see, we've been developing robotic race cars, cars that can actually push themselves to the very limits of physical performance. Now, why would we want to do such a thing? Well, there's two really good reasons for this. First, we believe that before people turn over control to an autonomous car, that autonomous car should be at least as good as the very best human drivers. Now, if you're like me and the other 70% of the population who know that we are above average drivers, you understand that's a very high bar. There's another reason as well. Just like race car drivers can use all of the friction between the tire and the road, all of the car's capabilities to go as fast as possible, we want to use all of those capabilities to avoid any accident we can. Now, you may push the car to the limits not because you're driving too fast, but because you've hit an icy patch of road. Conditions have changed. In those situations, we want a car that is capable enough to avoid any accident that can physically be avoided. We've also worked with Volkswagen and Oracle on Shelley, an autonomous race car that has raced at 150 miles an hour through the Bonneville Salt Flats, gone around Thunder Hill Raceway Park in the sun, the wind, and the rain, and navigated the 153 turns and 12.4 miles of the Pikes Peak hill climb route in Colorado with nobody at the wheel. It really makes you think, we'd love to know what's going on inside their brain. So as researchers, that's what we decided to find out. We decided to instrument not only the car, but also the race car driver, to try to get a glimpse into what was going on in their head as they were doing this. Now, this is Dr. Alina Harbut applying electrodes to the head of John Morton. John Morton is a former Can-Am and IMSA driver who's also a class champion at Le Mans. Fantastic driver, and very willing to put up with graduate students and this sort of research. And we can look at the relative power between the theta waves and the alpha waves. This gives us a measure of mental workload, how much the driver is actually challenged cognitively at any point along the track. So thanks to the FAVS program at Stanford, we were able to take John there and put him behind the wheel of a 1960 Porsche Abarth Carrera. Life is way too short for boring cars. So here you see John on the track. He's going up the hill. Oh, somebody like that. And you can see actually his mental workload measuring here in the red bar. You can see his actions as he approaches. Now watch, he has to downshift, and then he has to turn left, look for the tree, and down. Not surprisingly, you can see this is a pretty challenging task. You can see his mental workload spike as he goes through this, as you would expect with something that requires this level of complexity. But what's really interesting is to look at areas of the track where his mental workload doesn't increase. I'm going to take you around now to the other side of the track, turn 3, and John's going to go into that corner and the rear end of the car is going to begin to slide out. He's going to have to correct for that with steering. So watch as John does this here. Watch the mental workload and watch the steering. The car begins to slide out, dramatic maneuver to correct it, and no change whatsoever in the mental workload. Not a challenging task. In fact, entirely reflexive. Do we want something more from our car than to simply be a chauffeur? Do we want our car to perhaps be a partner, a coach, someone that can use their understanding of the situation to help us reach our potential? Can, in fact, the technology not simply replace humans, but allow us to reach the level of reflex and intuition that we're all capable of? So as we move forward into this technological future, I want you to just pause and think of that for a moment. What is the ideal balance of human and machine? And as we think about that, let's take inspiration from the absolutely amazing capabilities of the human body and the human mind. Thank you.
Test will commence in 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Underway.